This is Awards Buzz. We're here talking about the Oscar shortlisted short film, The Girl Who Cried Pearls. How are you guys doing today?
Excellent.
We're good.
Yeah.
And you?
Cold Montreal is where we're at.
Doing okay. I'm excited to talk about this film, which was one of the most involving of the shorts, and I'm really intrigued, especially since you're both sitting there smiling. How did you come up with this interesting, melancholy, clever tale?
Oh, I think the writing process is always pretty happy for us. It's the grind of making the thing for the next 4 years that the melancholy comes in. Right now, how did we come up with this idea? It started gestating well over a decade ago. We came, we had this image of a girl crying pearls. We had another image of her sweeping the kind of a close up of her sweeping up these pearls. And then this image of a boy staring through a little hole in the wall. And our process of writing really comes from building these images, and then the story writing is really how we start stitching them together.
Often we end up writing a story just for the mental hygiene of decontaminating from the work we're actually doing at the moment. So we'd be working all day on another film and then go out for beers and to clear our head. Sometimes you have to. When you're working in stop motion animation, you can't just stop the job and go home. Sometimes the temporal lobe of your brain is affected. Time
Yeah.
passes in a very surreal way when you're working when
Yeah.
24 frames equals 1 second
Yeah. We talked about it. Yeah, you have to go back down the rickety staircase to
to
reality.
reality. Yeah.
Were there
So yeah,
any
so I guess that part of the writing happens halfway between the studio and the bar.
were there any visual inspirations for the look? I feel like A Christmas Carol and some other things sort of come to mind just as the not necessarily unplaceable era, but just sort of like a different time, and we only see specific parts of this city.
It's funny. A Christmas Carol is funny enough, not one of, well, I'd say in some ways the pawnbroker was a Dickensian villain. Um, I think, and we built his costume in such a way that we imagined he was wearing his father's coat, and that it was starting to fall apart. And that was definitely, yeah, I think on our mood board, there's definitely images from uh, Dickens books and films. I don't know. I mean, it's all over the place. Our painting style of our puppets, it comes from our influence of um, painters like George Grosz or Otto Dix. At this point, it's like the influences are like would fill airplane cockpit with like a million buttons. It's hard to know where any one of them comes from anymore.
It's true. I almost don't think of the influences. I feel like we made it the way it was supposed to look without actually ever cerebrally thinking of an influence. There, I mean, large part of the look is just, you know, Montreal has been riddled with or just completely jammed with construction in the last several years. Every street it seems closed and ripped up, and there's mud absolutely everywhere. And we've been collecting jars of this stuff. There's actually some of the mud you get out of your local construction site is just beautiful. It's you can almost sculpt with it. But we ended up mixing it with some water and covering pretty much every set and every costume in it so that it kind of looks like the street outside. And I think that's maybe more of an influence than anyone's artistic style. The whole film
I
is
like
covered
that.
in the detritus of our city.
What was the most challenging thing about the animation process?
Oh, I think,
Well,
whew,
I mean, I think
where to begin?
there's one of the fun things that we've been doing for uh, decades now, I suppose, is that we originally come from the world of live theater, and we've always been working with actors. We do think that part of being a director is actually working with actors and the camera. And so whenever we start building a story, we get our friends over from the live theater world, and we start improvising. We build a kind of black box, very primitive version of the set, with the idea that that painting on the wall is a window, and this little stool here is a pawn shop desk or something like this. And we start playing out the scenarios and filming it from every angle, and then actually kind of editing it into a kind of animatic or a previs of what the movie might look like. So the challenging thing for the animation is to later pay attention to and respect the nuances of all of the individual actors. Because usually what happens when people are animating a puppet is that the animator himself or herself uses their own body as a reference to how the puppet would behave, even checking yourself in the mirror to see how a gesture might work. But when you're working with actual professional actors, they all have their own personality. Some of them are jittery. Some of them are very economical in their and professional in their behavior. Others are kind of looser and more improvisational. So the challenge is to not ever lose the precious parts of their character and translate or superimpose them onto the puppet so that the puppet feels sovereign, feels like an actual person and not like an avatar of the animator.
It's been, you mentioned decades of working together. It's been almost 2 decades since your Oscar nomination for Madame Tootly Pootly. How does it feel to be back on the short list? And how do you think that animation, even just the crop of films in contention, has changed since then?
Oh, that's a great question, and we're probably not qualified to answer it.
It feels like the first time. Nobody made a big deal out of it last time. It's kind of amazing the amount of attention this is getting this time.
Yeah, I mean, in some ways, yeah, it's a really solid group of films, but I think um, every year it's a solid group of short films internationally. The the student films coming out of Europe right now are extraordinary. You still have some of the old school studio work happening. We're part of this National Film Board of Canada tradition, which, we haven't been back in this conversation for almost 20 years, but the NFB is there seemingly every year. So in some ways, like we're just part of that tradition. It's like the clock has come up again with us,
Yeah.
but those producers are there every year.
Do you have any designs of turning this into a feature film, or do you feel like this is a complete story?
No, not a
Well, it's
feature
funny you should
film.
mention this actually.
Yeah.
Maybe not a feature film, but we were this morning meeting up with our composer, Patrick Watson. I don't know if you know his music, but if you check it out, if you don't, beautiful, beautiful work. And he is right now, or the three of us are working on a kind of radio play adaptation of it that he might put on an LP.
Yeah, so we're actually we'll make a vinyl version of the story. And what that means right now is we have to expand and adjust some of the dialogue so it works as almost like a radio play. To make this, we're hoping to make a really nice little objet d'art out of this vinyl record. So that's a sort of nice supplemental project. And outside of that, we'll see what happens. But we absolutely don't make short films with the notion that they're auditions for either us or the films to
No, no,
become
no.
feature filmed. Um, of course, the what's interesting about this film is it is a fable, and fables do seem to have their own lives after they come into the world. So um, maybe there'll be some surprises in the world, but it'd be almost more fun if they didn't come from us, but from
Exactly.
someone else who wanted to readapt or rethink that story in another time, place, or culture.
I like to ask this question to everybody, and so I'm glad that it's the first time I've heard radio play was the answer for what's next for this project. So that's
Yeah,
a
yeah.
good
We're
unique
heading
one.
right into the future. These guys have their finger on the pulse, is what people will say.
Well, on the notion of the pulse, before I'd let you go, I'd love to hear from both of you what's something you've seen, whether it's a feature or a short, animated, not animated, this year that's really sticking with you.
Animated that's sticking with us this year.
Honestly, here's the other kind of thing is
Hmm.
that for us, we don't watch a lot of animation,
Yeah,
to be
that's
quite frank, because first of all, it feels like homework to watch animation. It feels like we're still working if we watch other people's stop motion.
it feels cleaner not to know what people are doing.
I mean, I'll be honest, like my favorite movie of the year was like everybody else. Like I thought Sinners was brilliant, you know? We don't have tastes necessarily that are on the cutting edge mostly, or we're going home and watching I'm watching episodes of Cheers on Amazon, or we're putting on a record, or reading a book. Like we really try not to watch animation at all, and not just because we want to keep our influences clean. It's just it feels like we're still at work.
Yeah.
I appreciate that. It's been a pleasure, guys. I wish you plenty of luck with this radio play, with the NFP, and with everything that comes next in the evolving future.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for even being interested in the film. We really appreciate it.
It's wonderful to speak with
Of
you.
course.